All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are going deep into the world of Bitcoin.
Ooh, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, yeah.
Exciting.
We are going to be looking at this new article from Foking Alpha.
Okay.
Have you heard of Foking Alpha?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, they're really into like decoding markets and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do some cool stuff.
This is a really cool article. It's called Bitcoin's Roadmap, so we're going to be talking about that. And it was published today.
Wow. Hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses, January 19th, 2025. So this is like
Very timely.
very timely, very relevant to where we're at right now.
Yeah,
So I'm excited to jump into this with you.
me too.
We're going to be looking at some short-term strategies, long-term strategies, and some really fascinating market indicators and things like that.
Cool.
But before we get too far, I have to say that Bitcoin is currently sitting at,
Let me guess.
what is it at?
It's got to be over 100,000.
$105,022. I can't believe. I remember when.
Yeah. I remember when it was like 20,
Yes.
and we thought,
That was great.
that's insane. So
Huge.
this is like 5 times that.
More than 5 times. Yeah, that's awesome.
I know, it's crazy.
That's wild.
So Fogging Alpha, like I was saying, they really break down these market trends.
They do.
So their analysis tends to carry some weight in this space.
Yeah, they definitely have a good reputation in the crypto world for knowing their stuff.
So let's get into this roadmap here.
Okay.
First of all, we're looking at the short term. So next few months, potential decline zone of $70,000 to $85,000.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
You know, it's natural to maybe feel a little nervous when we hear numbers like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But we got to remember that these corrections are just a natural part of market cycles.
I guess so.
Yeah. And, the most important thing is understanding why that dip might be happening.
All right, so enlighten us. Why are we expecting this correction?
Bitcoin has had a pretty phenomenal run-up recently.
I mean, it's just gone bananas. So it's likely that some traders are going to want to take some profit at these high levels.
Right. Cash out a little.
Yeah.
Take some money off the table.
Exactly. And that selling pressure,
Yeah.
that could create a temporary dip.
Okay.
It's not really a sign of weakness in Bitcoin itself, more just like the market kind of rebalancing.
So not all doom and gloom, just a little bit of a roller coaster,
Right.
maybe?
Yeah, a little bit of a breather before the next leg up.
Okay, so a breather before the next leg up.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so this is where it gets strategic because the article talks about what they call an accumulation zone.
Yes. Accumulation zone.
So tell me, what is this accumulation zone?
Yeah, so basically they're pinpointing this price range that they think is the ideal time to buy Bitcoin.
Oh.
And they're saying it's between 60,000 and 70,000.
Oh, wow. Okay, so if you are bullish on Bitcoin long term, this correction could actually be a really good thing.
Exactly. A fantastic buying opportunity.
Interesting. So if you were looking to jump into Bitcoin right now, this is the price point that you would be watching.
Absolutely. But
like a hawk.
like a hawk. But as with any investment, risk management is super important.
Okay.
So they mention a stop loss point at 55,000.
What is a stop loss point?
Yeah, so a stop loss order is basically like an insurance policy.
Oh.
It automatically sells your Bitcoin if the price drops to a certain level.
Interesting.
In this case, 55,000. So it limits your potential losses.
So you're basically saying, okay, I'm in it for the long haul, but if things go south,
Yeah,
I'm cutting my losses at this point.
exactly. You don't want to lose your shirt.
Okay, I like it. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk long term because the article lays out some really bullish projections for Bitcoin's future.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty exciting.
And I got to admit, they got me a little bit hyped up.
They're definitely enticing.
So the article talks about a thing called recovery phase targets.
Yes.
Price points that they think Bitcoin could hit as it bounces back from this correction.
Right.
And get this, the first target, $140,000 has already been achieved,
That's incredible.
even with the potential for a dip.
I know. It's amazing to see that kind of growth.
All right, so what about take profit 2? What kind of numbers are we talking about?
So take profit 2 is set at $250,000.
200.
More than double the current price.
That's crazy.
It's wild.
And it gets even crazier.
Even crazier.
Right.
Yeah. Take profit 3 is a staggering $500,000
$500,000.
per Bitcoin.
What?
Think about that. I'm trying.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah. So, what is driving this long-term optimism?
Right.
Is this just like hype, or is there real substance behind these projections?
Well, it's definitely not just hype. There are a lot of factors converging to create this bullish outlook.
Okay.
One of the biggest things is that there's so much more institutional interest in Bitcoin now.
Oh, yeah. Big companies are starting to get in on the game.
Yeah, even governments.
Right, it's not just us little guys anymore.
Exactly.
So what else is fueling this growth?
Well, we're seeing Bitcoin being used more and more for everyday transactions. Oh, yeah. I was just at a coffee shop the other day and they were taking Bitcoin.
Exactly. More and more businesses are accepting it,
Wow.
making it much more practical and accessible.
It's becoming a part of our everyday lives.
Yeah, and we can't ignore the macroeconomic factors, too.
Like what?
With all the uncertainty in the global economy,
Yeah.
Bitcoin's decentralized nature is looking really appealing to a lot of people.
Right, so it's like a hedge against all this.
Exactly, a hedge against inflation and economic instability.
So it's kind of like a digital safe haven.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
Okay, I like it. All right, so we've got the short-term correction coming up,
Right.
but then this really incredible long-term potential.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It's a lot.
It is.
So are there any indicators we can use to like make sense of it all?
Definitely there are.
How do we know what to expect?
So the article highlights 3 key indicators
All right, hit
that
that.
can provide some valuable insights into Bitcoin's trajectory.
Okay, what are these mystical indicators?
So the first one is called the MACD,
MACD.
which stands for Moving Average Convergence Divergence.
Okay, I'm already lost.
It sounds complicated, but it's basically a momentum indicator that helps identify buy and sell signals.
Okay.
And for Bitcoin right now, the MACD is actually showing bullish momentum.
Even with this dip coming up?
Yeah, even with the potential for a short-term correction.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
But what does bullish momentum actually mean? Like in practical terms?
Basically, it's telling us that even though we might see a pullback, the underlying strength of the market is still positive.
Oh, okay.
So the upward trend is likely to continue.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next indicator?
Okay, so the next one is the stochastic oscillator.
Stochastic oscillator.
Yeah. And this one helps us to see if the market is overbought or oversold.
Okay.
And right now, the stochastic oscillator is suggesting that Bitcoin is a little bit overbought.
Overbought, does that mean we should sell?
Not necessarily. It just suggests that the price has gone up a little too quickly in the short term.
Oh.
So it might be due for a pullback.
So it kind of reinforces the idea that we're going to have a correction.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean that the long-term bullish outlook is gone.
Okay.
No, just a little breather.
All right. What about the third indicator?
Okay, so the third one is trend lines.
Trend lines.
Yeah, basically these are lines that are drawn on a chart
Okay.
that connect the highs and the lows, and they help us visualize where the market's going.
Okay.
And the trend lines for Bitcoin right now suggest that there's some strong support around 60,000 to 70,000.
Wait a minute. Isn't that the same zone
It is.
that the article said is the best buying opportunity?
It is pretty interesting how that all lines up.
Yeah. So we've got the predicted correction, the long-term outlook, and now these technical indicators
Right.
all pointing towards 60,000 to 70,000 as like the sweet spot.
It's compelling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is all right. But before we get too carried away, I have to remind everyone that this is not financial advice.
Of course not.
Always do your own research.
Right.
Talk to your financial advisor.
That's crucial.
We're just here to provide information.
Exactly.
But I gotta say, this information is pretty insightful.
It is fascinating stuff.
All right, so we've explored this roadmap so far.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
From the dip to these ambitious long-term targets and even the technical indicators.
It's been quite a journey.
It has, and it's just beginning, so stay tuned because we're going to be right back with more on Bitcoin's roadmap.
I can't wait.
Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back. Yeah, a lot to unpack for sure.
There really is. But, speaking of exciting, I want to go back to those long-term targets for a second.
Okay.
$500,000.
It's a big number.
It's hard to even comprehend.
It is.
What would a world look like where Bitcoin is at $500,000?
Right. It really speaks to the transformative potential that a lot of people see in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But, it is important to remember that these are just projections.
Right. Of course, no one can predict the future.
Yeah, exactly. The market is constantly changing, and all kinds of things could happen that we
Yeah.
just don't know about.
Right, like a black swan event or something like that.
Exactly.
But, okay, let's just say, hypothetically, Bitcoin hits that level.
Okay.
$500,000. What does that mean for, like, the average person?
Right.
Like, what does widespread adoption at that level really look like?
Well, that's a question that sparks a lot of debate.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's one of the most fascinating things about Bitcoin.
Okay.
Some people think that Bitcoin could become like the dominant global currency,
Wow.
challenging traditional financial system.
Really changing the world as we know it.
Yeah, exactly. And then others see it more as a store of value,
Okay.
like a digital gold.
Okay, so it's not just about getting rich quick.
Right.
It's about a fundamental shift in how we think about money.
Exactly. And that's what makes Bitcoin so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just a technology. It's like a movement.
It's a whole new way of thinking about things.
Exactly. Challenging the status quo.
I like that.
Reimagining what's possible.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. We've talked a lot about like the big picture stuff.
Right.
But what about people who are just starting to explore cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
They're curious about Bitcoin, but they're maybe a little intimidated by it all.
That's understandable.
Yeah, what advice would you give to someone like that?
Well, first and foremost, do your research.
Okay.
There are so many resources available, online articles, videos,
Yeah.
courses.
Educate yourself.
Exactly. Don't just jump in blindly based on hype.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially in a market as complex as this one.
What else?
Start small.
Okay.
You don't need to invest a ton of money to get started.
Right.
A lot of platforms let you buy fractions of a Bitcoin.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, dip your toes in the water.
Don't go all in right away.
Exactly.
Okay, good advice. And, speaking of getting started, you mentioned earlier that Foking Alpha is a site that decodes markets.
Right.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, so from what I've seen, they really focus on actionable insights
Okay.
rather than just like reporting the news.
So it's not just about telling you what happened. It's
Mhm.
about helping you understand why it happened.
Exactly, and what it might mean for the future.
Oh, okay.
They use charts, indicators, strategies.
Oh, wow. So they're like really getting into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, bridging the gap between complex data and practical strategies.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so we've got the basics, the long-term potential, some
Yeah.
advice for beginners.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this projected correction.
Okay.
I know we've said it's normal, but it's still a little scary to think about.
Yeah, especially after seeing those high prices.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's understandable to feel that way. Corrections can be volatile and unpredictable.
Yeah, for sure.
But, if you believe in the long-term potential of Bitcoin,
Yeah.
these corrections can actually be opportunities.
Opportunities. How so?
Remember that accumulation zone we talked about?
Uh-huh.
A correction could give you a chance to buy Bitcoin at a lower price.
Oh, so it's kind of like a sale.
Exactly.
Wait for the prices to drop and then stock up.
That's a great way to think about it.
Okay, I like that. But even with that long-term view, it's still hard to ignore the short-term stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
Like when the market's going crazy, how do you stay calm?
The key is to focus on your overall strategy
Okay.
and not get caught up in the day-to-day fluctuations.
Don't panic sell.
Remember why you invested in Bitcoin in the first place.
Right.
Is it a long-term hold for you? Is it a hedge against inflation?
Okay, so keep your eyes on the prize.
Exactly. And remember, knowledge is power.
Yes.
The more you understand about Bitcoin, the better decisions you can make.
Okay, good advice. All right, so we talked about the potential correction, the long-term outlook,
Yeah.
strategies for beginners, even how to stay sane when the market's going crazy.
Yeah, it's important.
But let's not forget about the risks.
Right.
No investment is without risk,
Of course not.
and Bitcoin is no exception.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the biggest concerns or challenges that we need to be aware of?
Well, one of the biggest ones is volatility.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We did, but it's worth repeating.
Okay.
Bitcoin can experience huge price swings,
Yeah,
and that can be really nerve-wracking.
especially for beginners.
Exactly.
So it's not for the faint of heart.
That's for sure another concern is the regulatory landscape.
Right. Governments are still trying to figure out what to do with crypto.
Exactly. And changes in regulations could really impact the market.
Yeah, that's a big unknown.
It is, and
Yeah.
we've also seen those security breaches and scams.
Yeah, that's scary.
Security is so important in the crypto world.
Okay, so choose reputable exchanges,
Yes,
secure your wallets,
absolutely.
and be careful out there.
Be very careful.
Don't trust those crypto cowboys.
That's right.
But even with all these risks, there's still a lot of excitement around Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What do you think keeps people so optimistic?
Well, despite the challenges, Bitcoin is still capturing people's imaginations.
Yeah.
Investors, entrepreneurs, technologists all over the world.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world.
It really is. It's a paradigm shift in how we think about money.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to be a part of it.
It really is.
It's like we're watching history in the making.
right before our eyes.
I know, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of history in the making, what do you think is next for Bitcoin?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
The world of crypto is constantly evolving.
Yeah, for sure.
New technologies and applications all the time.
It's hard to keep up.
It is, but one area to watch is layer 2 solutions.
Layer 2 solutions.
Yeah, basically they're trying to make Bitcoin more scalable and faster.
Oh, so like easier to use.
Exactly.
Well, okay, that makes sense. What else?
Another interesting area is decentralized finance.
DeFi.
DeFi.
That sounds complicated.
It is, but it's basically a movement to create a more open and accessible financial system.
Using blockchain technology.
Exactly. And Bitcoin is playing a role in that.
Wow, so much to learn.
There is.
All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the potential correction, the long-term outlook,
Right.
strategies for beginners, and even the risks and challenges.
It's been a comprehensive deep dive.
It really has. But as always, we want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
We've talked about Bitcoin's past, its present, its potential future.
Right.
But here's the big question.
What's that?
What role will Bitcoin play in your life?
Ooh, that is a good question.
Yeah? Will you be an observer watching from the sidelines?
Right.
Or will you be an active participant?
Shaping the future.
The choice is yours.
It is.
But whatever you choose, stay informed, stay curious, and stay engaged.
Wise words.
Because this is just the beginning.
The beginning of something incredible.
All right, well, that's it for part 2 of our deep dive into Bitcoin's roadmap.
Okay.
We'll be right back with part 3, so don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really feels like we're at like a tipping point or something.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. But before we wrap things up completely,
Okay.
I wanted to go back to those take profit targets one more time. Okay, yeah. Those were pretty mind-blowing.
I'm still, trying to grasp what $500,000 Bitcoin would even look like.
I know, it's hard to imagine.
What would actually have to happen for Bitcoin to get to that price?
Right.
What events or developments?
Well, I think we need to see a lot of things come together.
Like what?
Well, first of all, widespread global adoption.
Okay.
I mean, really widespread.
More than we have now.
Oh, yeah, way more. Maybe even countries starting to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender.
Whoa, Bitcoin as an official currency.
Yeah, think about that.
That's wild.
It would be a huge shift.
What else?
Continued institutional investment.
It's okay.
And not just from regular companies,
Okay.
but maybe even central banks getting involved.
Wow, central banks holding Bitcoin.
It could happen.
That's crazy to think about.
I know it would completely change the financial landscape.
Yeah, that's for sure. But, okay, even if it doesn't hit $500,000.
Yeah.
Just the fact that people are even talking about it
Right.
shows how far Bitcoin has already come.
Absolutely. A few years ago, people would have laughed at you
Yeah.
if you said Bitcoin could be worth that much.
Total science fiction.
Right. And now it's being seriously analyzed by major financial institutions.
It's pretty amazing to watch it all happen.
It really is.
Okay, but let's be real for a second.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the potential upsides.
Yeah. The excitement.
But what about the risks?
Right.
Are there any red flags that we should be aware of?
Well, I mean, as we mentioned before, volatility is still a big concern.
Yeah.
Even if the long-term trend is positive, those short-term swings can be pretty intense.
So buckle up.
Exactly. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
And then there's the regulatory landscape.
Right. Governments are still trying to figure out how to handle crypto.
Yeah, that's a lot of uncertainty.
It is, and that uncertainty can create risk.
And then there's the whole security thing.
Yeah, security breaches, scams, all that stuff.
It can be scary.
Again, especially if you're not careful.
So what's the best way to protect yourself?
Well, choose reputable exchanges. Use secure wallets.
Yeah.
And be really careful who you trust.
Right. Don't fall for those scams.
Exactly. There are a lot of shady characters out there.
Yeah, so be smart, be vigilant.
Absolutely.
But even with all those risks,
Yeah.
there's still so much excitement around Bitcoin.
There is. It's undeniable.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because Bitcoin represents something new,
Okay.
something different, a challenge to the traditional financial system.
Yeah, it's like a revolution.
It is a financial revolution.
It's pretty exciting to be a part of it.
I agree.
So knowing all of this,
Yeah.
what would you say is the most important thing for our listeners to remember?
I think the key is balance.
Okay.
Recognize the potential, but also be aware of the risks.
Okay.
Educate yourself, start small, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
That's great advice.
And remember, this is a journey.
We're all learning as we go.
Exactly.
All right, well, I think we've officially reached the end of our Bitcoin roadmap.
We've covered a lot.
We have from the dip to the moon,
And everything in between.
the risks, the rewards, the strategies,
The potential.
the challenges. It's been an amazing journey,
It really has.
and I want to thank you for coming along with us.
It's been a pleasure.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and as always,
Happy diving.
fortune favors the bold.